evening. Welcome to chemistry class. I'm Miss Mikesell, and this is our virtual back to school night. My contact information is shown on the slide below. Email is the best way to reach me. I try to respond to all emails within the day. You can also leave me a voicemail, and I would strongly encourage all students and parents to sign up for the Remind app. To do that, you need to text 81010 and in the message put @RaptorKim. This will allow you to see upcoming due dates and deadlines and get reminders on important work. And finally, my office is in E213 for students who need to get a hold of me. I'm really excited that my family is going to include 2 Raptors next year at Eagle Crest. My daughter will be starting her freshman year at EHS, and my son is a junior at Eagle Crest. I graduated from Northern Arizona University with my teaching credential. I received my master's degree from CCU in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis in technology. That's been very helpful this past year. So in chemistry, we have 7 units that we study over the course of the year. We start with Unit 1 on gas laws. It allows us to test students' mathematical readiness in algebra, while we can still transfer them to other grade level courses within a quick timeline. Chemistry is an accelerated science option for sophomores. And so if they don't have the mathematical readiness, we typically move them back to earth physical science. We'll then move into studying the periodic table, looking at patterns and bonding, and then the different types of reactions, being able to predict the products of reactions. Before moving into stoichiometry, how we can determine and quantify how much reactant we need or how much product will form. Then we start to study solutions, acids and bases, and energy changes in thermodynamics. I look forward to a really fun year. So your supplies required for chemistry are a binder, a single subject notebook to take notes and do practice in, either a scientific or graphing calculator. It does need to be able to do scientific notation, a pen or pencil, and safety goggles. It would be wonderful if you went on RevTrack and paid for the science workbook and lab fee. However, that is an optional fee, but it is very much appreciated to support our program. Please note, if you're having financial difficulties, your students can disinfect a pair of safety goggles that were donated from last year's students and then use them instead of buying new goggles if they prefer. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how the class is structured. And I like to refer to our learning cycle and our performance cycle. So our learning cycle is when we learn new tasks and skills. This can be when we're taking notes or watching podcasts, when we're completing labs, when we're doing activities in class, or when we're doing practice assignments either on paper or on Schoology. And for those of you that have ever performed in a theatrical show or production, this would be similar to when you are learning the script and learning the choreography, and you're getting your staging cues and all those separate tasks that come together for the production. At the end of the learning cycle, we give what we call a formative assessment. And a formative assessment is an ungraded assessment in which we provide the students feedback. This is the last chance students have to get feedback and make corrections to their learning before the actual test. I equate this with the dress rehearsal in a theatrical production. And then we move into the performance cycle. And our gradebook tries to measure the learning of students, not speed of learning, behaviors, or other non-academic factors. So in the performance cycle, we have 3 different types of tests. Mile markers are our foundational content. This is core content that the student will need to be able to move on to the next unit throughout the semester. It is very important that students show proficiency or mastery on every mile marker so that they continue to move forward in the course. We also have individual lab practicals. Those are open note, but they're performed by students individually so that we can see that they can take what they've learned and actually apply it into a problem that requires them to synthesize and analyze data and look at it in a larger scientific practice. And then finally, we have content checks. And content checks are when we are checking the content for curriculum, learning targets, that doesn't move forward into future units. So the content checks and mastery of those are really what separates the A-B students from those that are going to earn a C or a D over the course of the year. Our performance cycle, the assessments would be like the opening night performance. But we allow retakes for every assessment, whether that be a mile marker, revisions for lab practicals, or on the content checks. And so please note that if the opening night performance didn't go well for your child, you can always do a retake and a reassessment, whether that's another show the next day, or you decide to be in a different theatrical production a month from now. Students are always allowed to retake and reassess over any of the graded work in our gradebook. So let's look at that course structure one more time. Our practice tasks are the first thing, and throughout the time we're doing practice tests, we're giving feedback. A lot of time written feedback, but we will put it in the Schoology gradebook. Schoology gradebook being reserved for only the practice work that doesn't count in the student's final calculated grade. This allows you to check and make sure they're doing the practice ahead of the assessment days and that they are making adequate progress in the course. Then we have the performance tasks, which are the mile markers, the content checks, and the lab practicals. And if your child isn't pleased with their performance on those performance tasks, they can always do remediation. Remediation is required before students can reassess. And then they can either complete the lab practical revisions or an assessment retake for a mile marker or content check. So here are the codes that you'll see in the Power School gradebook. And the Power School gradebook is where we are going to put in all of the work that counts to determine their overall grade at the end of the semester. NHI means not handed in. It means the student was absent or did not submit the work, and thus we have no evidence yet. We tend to not put NHIs in until the makeup window has passed, and so this is a cue to you as a parent that a student hasn't done the appropriate makeup from their absence. NU means no understanding. That means that the student's assessment did not demonstrate enough evidence to earn proficiency yet. They need to go back and do remediation and retake. When we enter the letter grade of a C, which the computer defaults into a 75, that means proficiency, that the student has demonstrated the lowest acceptable level of knowledge on the learning target, and they are proficient at it. And finally, an A, which the Power School program defaults into a 95, means mastery, and evidence demonstrates an A level of understanding. So when you scroll through Power School, you're going to see the fall semester criteria table. Please note that we use a mastery-based grading system. Semester grades are determined by this rubric. We do not use a calculated average of all the performance assessments to determine their semester grade. So as you can see, to earn a D in chemistry, students need to be proficient at minimum on all 6 of our foundational content learning targets: measurement, sig figs, mole conversions, molar mass, ideal gas law, and formula writing. And then they need to be at least proficient on 3 of the 7 individual lab practicals we'll do over the semester. Please note, if you ever see a mile marker that shows no understanding, that should trigger an alarm bell in your child, because we want all students to be proficient at those 6 learning targets so that they have the ability to move on successfully with the course. And then you can see the criteria for a C and how it differs, a B and how it differs, and finally an A. And to get an A, students would need to show mastery on our fundamental core content. That's the 6 mile markers. They would also need a mode, or the most common score, of mastery on all the lab assessments, with scores of proficiency on every single one, and a mode of mastery on all content checks, with a score of proficiency or higher on all. If you have any questions, please talk to your son or daughter first, as we'll be practicing with this rubric quite extensively over the first couple of weeks of class, and then reach out to me if needed. For eligibility will be shown in PowerSchool as satisfactory or unsatisfactory. At the end of the first quarter, we'll put in a projected grade. That grade is projected because if we look at the criteria table, it's based on the entire semester's work. And so we will have to project based on their progress so far, what grade we believe that they will get at the end of the semester. And we send out as a chemistry team the projected criteria to show how we decide between an A, B, C, D, and an F at the end of first quarter. Finally, as a parent, I know it's always helpful to go, when can we do remediation? When can my student get help? We don't expect parents to be experts in chemistry. So on Mondays, our PLT, or learning team, offers retakes in East 217 from 3:40 to 4:20. Students can come in to retake mile markers or content checks, or to work on lab revisions. On Wednesdays, we offer help sessions. And this is the support lab that we staff with 3 to 4 chemistry teachers so that we can put students into small groups and give them small group remediation on the specific learning target that they're struggling with. Please note, if students can't make these sessions, they can always email me to work out a time to come in before school or during their off period or lunch. And finally, some tips for a successful year. I would encourage your students to complete the practice with fidelity. Mistakes are expected. Please don't stop doing the work when they think they've made a mistake. We want students to try to complete the problem anyway. Part of the learning process is to be able to go back and identify where the mistake was and then change our thinking. That is what learning truly is. If we don't do the practice, we will not grow into better chemistry students. Be an active learner. Ask questions, come to help sessions. Make sure that you are asking questions and being engaged in class so that you get the support that you need. Have a growth mindset. Be willing to complete remediation and retake assessments. Remember, everything in the gradebook is written in pencil, and you need to come in and do remediation so you can retake it and earn a higher score. And finally, use the Schoology resources. One of the benefits of the pandemic last year was we now have podcasts and practices with embedded feedback for every learning target in chemistry. There is an abundance of resources available on Schoology to support your child if they are struggling on a particular topic at home. Thank you so much. Please reach out if you have any questions. Have a wonderful evening.